So today's review is going to be a little bit different as we talk about the last ever song by BiSH, I'm assuming it's the last song this time, BiSH. A song that I both had a slightly muted first reaction to, as well as a lot of things that I've since discovered that I've found very beautiful and have transcended and given it the meaning of a true goodbye song. But, as always, we have to break it down with a review. So here we go. Hi there and welcome back to Japan, where just for a little bit of quick context, in case you didn't already know, BiSH have released the song BiSH that both in name and everything released around it, including a little behind the scenes documentary, seems to very much imply it is the final song. And this was right after we had the song Zuto, which I had figured was a goodbye. And, you know, the video, everything about it very much painted it as a goodbye from the band. It was the end of that run of 12 songs that they said they were going to release, and it certainly looked like that was it. But I remember saying at the time, actually, when I did the review, that I was pretty sure there would be at least one more song, or at least I just had this feeling there would be one more song. And thus, here we are with BiSH, their way of seemingly capping things off, and it has its own music video as well. There's the context. Let's get into breaking this one down, because there's a few points. Now, first of all, let's just start with my initial reaction and what the song is. Now, this is the bit where I expect probably anyone who's particularly thin-skinned might check out, because I must admit, when I first heard the song, and I actually did it as a reaction on our Twitch live stream, I remember being sort of concerned going into it, because I felt that Zuto was such a good final song and such a nice, poignant goodbye. I was concerned about where they would go for it. And then they sort of delivered this song. We listened through to it all together on the Twitch live stream, and it was a nice little rock and roll song, had a good melody. Yeah, it was nice. I liked it. It was mentioned that it was written by the Yellow Monkey. Nice, that's a famous name. But the thing is that as nice as it was exactly what I said. A sort of a gentle rock and roll song, very simple. We've heard this before from BiSH, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like I say, on the surface, it's good. But as a final song by such a musical juggernaut, I must admit, musically, that's where I initially had my concerns. Was it just didn't feel like it was a big goodbye. It felt like a song that they'd done before. It felt like retreading ground. And yes, many people could say that was nostalgic. It was reminding us of earlier phases of BiSH and things like that. But that's not necessarily what I want in a goodbye. You take, for example, Zuto. Zuto in its music video was very poignant in the way that it referenced a lot of things they did before, but at the same time managed to sound like a fresh and original song. This song, however, I must admit, the lack of musical intricacy, I'm assuming, was deliberate to keep it very honest and straightforward, but they have honest and straightforward songs. The leaning towards nostalgia, like I say, I felt Zuto did better. Just basically, this was a song that felt good. And for me, for a last song, BiSH felt like they deserved better than just good, and that's what Zuto had already been. So my issue had kind of been initially, after first listen without doing much more, or not having a chance to do a response like research, you know, this is the problem with reactions, you don't have a chance to really research things, is that it just felt like, okay, I felt like we already had a goodbye, and as much as I wanted an extra song, this didn't feel particularly like it did anything except for sort of stutter and drag out the inevitable ending. So, when they released a short documentary, I thought, I'm going to go in, have a closer look and really look into this, as well as having a little look at the lyrics in some detail so I can better understand perhaps some of the workings underneath this. Now, of the three things that came out subsequently, like I said, the documentary, the lyrics, which I looked into, and the music video, I should mention that as well, the one that certainly hit me the hardest was the lyrics. But first of all, I am just going to talk about that behind the scenes video, because it was actually very nice. It was very honest. I felt that a lot of it did lean towards the directing. The directing was done in a very sort of, kind of like you'd expect from WAC. It was almost like a drama series that really wants to push the poignant emotional moments. Lots of quiet board meetings, you know, with Yellow Monkey, and very quietly talking about things and emotions and feelings. And then, you know, in the studio, looking very close at each individual member and talking to them. So, you know, just trying to get each individual member's emotions. It was very much trying to push the emotional angle, which I am all for, but I'm always a little bit cautious when it comes to anything coming out of WAC. They are very good at pushing an image, and they know how to make things seem very emotional. Kind of, if they were directing a drama, I'd imagine we'd have lots of scenes with very faded, blurry images of people crying, looking off into the sunset. I can't believe it ended like this. You know, they love their melodrama, let's put it that way. In the case of this little behind-the-scenes documentary, though, I think it was still very clear there was a lot of honest love there. Looking at especially the blonde-haired dude, yellow monkey dude, talking, he seemed to really have a lot of love for what he was doing. Now, I'd never really seen anything of the Yellow Monkey before, just kind of heard the music. And in fact, actually, before I did this video, I went back and listened to a bit of their music as well, because I was like trying to remember any of their songs. I was like, oh yeah, okay, now I remember how it goes. But yeah, dude came across well, and everyone seemed to be really into it. And so for me, the main thing I really took out of that was that there was definitely a degree of love and passion to this, which I know should be something that isn't a surprise, but it is always worth noting when, like I say, this song in itself coming out after Zoot kind of felt like something that didn't need to be here, but was done, basically the question being, was it done for Whack to make more money, which I'm sure either way it was, but also was it done as a genuine passion project? And the behind the scenes video definitely gave the impression that it was. But what really moved me was moving on to the lyrics. See, as much as I didn't particularly find the song to really wow me, it was just fairly cookie cutter, to be honest. The lyrics were kind of the thing that needed to be therefore on point, especially considering this song is more about meaning than anything else. And this is where it really had to catch up a lot on Zoot, which as far as I was concerned was such a good final hurrah from the band. Initially, when I thought that was probably the last song. Now, big thank you, by the way, I've got miraikin.com's lyrical translation, which I'm putting up on screen as well. Hopefully you can see that. But right from the get-go, the lyrics start in a very simple but just a great way. And we always love a good first line in lyrics, but I promise to always be by your side, but let's say goodbye. It's the last stage where we break our bond. I just think that's such a nice, clear and beautifully puts into focus the whole juxtaposition of the feeling when you have a band who very much are about the personality. They're a big personality band. Obviously, they've got a very tight community of fans, as a lot of these bands do. But I think a group like BiSH, where personality, the individual members are their personalities are very much up front. You know, they do combine the love that rock bands have, the rock band fandoms have, along with this sort of idol group personality thing. So yeah, there is that bond which is being separated, but the way that they say, promise always to be by your side, but let's say goodbye, it's nice. It really puts into sharp focus that particular feeling. I did like as well to mention, in the midst of the cherry blossom petals, we meet eyes for the last time. I thought that was a rather peculiar one, because I'm guessing that first, in one way, it's the sort of stereotypical, let's talk about cherry blossoms because it's Japan and we're doing something emotional. But the other thing to remember is that they would have known when this was coming out, and this is coming out right just as the cherry blossom season is getting ready to start. So everyone kind of knows, you know, around this time of year in Japan, they release the expected dates of the cherry blossoms in different prefectures in Japan. So they would know that would be something people would be thinking of. And I'm sure as they're starting to wind down, I know their final concert's in June or July, but certainly a lot of people are going to be really playing this song on repeat as they walk amongst the cherry blossoms. So this is a good time to put lyrics like that in. I assume that was well timed, but I like it anyway. So in the same way that we really focused on the first part of the lyrics, I again want to look at the last part of the lyrics. I mean, most of the lyrics here are really very nice and worth looking at, but there's a lot of sentiment about, you know, the special times we had together, separation. It's very beautifully worded, but, you know, pretty much expected. The last bit though here, in the midst of falling petals, I wanted to convey something for the last time. So this is kind of, if you like, the final message. See, the small I, as in I, personal, has grown big. The gift of youth we nurtured together. So in a way it's talking about growing up, but I think that's almost got a bit of a double meaning, not to do the sort of the art student thing, let's look for the subtext, but in all seriousness I get the feeling that it is something we have noticed. You know, they started as a group of, you know, BiSH, and they've all very much become individuals, and we were seeing the solo careers really growing for people like Pedro, Uni-D, for Ina. There is that sense, you know, Chi-Chi's obviously had her solo work. They're all kind of not just growing as personalities, but we're seeing their individual passions, the things that they individually want to follow. And I think that's something we can also take from that line, the small I has grown big, you know, the personalities, the egos, the individual celebrities, if you like. Then we say, I'll put it in a box and go on a journey. Thank you. let's say goodbye. So the gift of youth, we'll put it in a box. So it's the idea that, yeah, you get your memories, you put it in a box, maybe that be a CD or some sort of, you know, collection of the memories that you have with a band, because they're very much kept in recorded form, and you can keep those with you. They're things that you won't lose. They're things that you can always remember. So I think that final like little passage really kind of clarifies what we're talking about here, which is the idea that just because a group goes, you don't lose their music. You know, you don't lose that. You can always go back and enjoy it. And so long as it's a good memory for everyone, it's a shared one. You know, the groups can still get together. They can still play again in the future, do reunion tours and stuff like that. Or BiSH can just replace them with a new group. Sorry, Whack can replace them with a new group. Yeah, we've seen that, Whack. That's too soon. But so the lyrics, yeah, really added a lot for me on this. Last but not least, though, we do have the music video. And the music video is a bit of a difficult one for me, because I don't think they could have bettered Zuto as a final video, and I don't think they did better Zuto as a final video. It was nice. I did like the sort of bringing back the idea of having like the mud, the really gross looking mud all over them. That was kind of a fun callback. I don't know if it necessarily helped the video. It was kind of fun, but it did feel a little bit out of place, if I'm honest. The idea that the music video was mostly focused just on them as individuals, looking at their faces, I thought that was nice. Also showing them as individuals really played towards the narrative in the lyrics, that they are growing as individuals and going their own separate ways. So rather than constantly showing them as a group together, it was showing them as individual people who have their own futures now to look forward to. So it was good. It was modest. It was played down. It was very straightforward. That's all great. But yeah, I've got to be honest, I think Zuto did a better job. I think Zuto was such a nice final video that, yeah, I can't help but feel that it was almost like a bittersweet goodbye. You know, it's almost like you had the really nice final hurrah, and then just someone put in a little bit of a bittersweet goodbye that I don't know. It kind of again put me back with that feeling that I was like, this is okay, but I don't know if it necessarily improved on what Zuto did before. So time for a conclusion. Let's bring all these thoughts together. And that's really what this is leading towards, because this is the most difficult conclusion I think I've probably ever had to do for a video on this channel. Usually the conclusion is a very short part of this channel where I just wrap up previous thoughts. But here, all the previous thoughts, putting them together is something very difficult that I might feel one way about now and then might feel very differently about in 2 or 3 years' time. And I'm sure a lot of us will probably feel similar on this. See, yeah, the meaning is there. The lyrics are there. The passion of the people who created this is there. This feels like something that a lot of people's hearts went into, that was special. The problem for me is, it's like when you watch a TV series or something, you know, you want to know that it ends in a good way. You know, you want to know that it's going to end in a way where you end up walking away thinking, oh, I really enjoyed that. I mean, I've heard so many people talk about things like Lost and The Sopranos, where when they were on, everyone was like talking about it all the time. And I never watched them at the time, and I never will watch either of those series, because I know that when they got to the end, everyone was like, oh, I was so disappointed with the ending. Game of Thrones is another one, isn't it? And this is the kind of thing, is that when it comes to a band like this, who we have so much vested in the enjoyment of their personalities and their journeys, which will continue after this point, yes, individually or however, the ending is important. And for me, Zuto, yes, it was very predictable. It was a hurrah to their previous works. It was a very sort of normal, big, everyone sing-along kind of ending. But sometimes just a satisfyingly predictable and rounded ending is good. Now, this song was great, but you know, I would have enjoyed this a lot more if this had come out just before Zuto. And that's such a ridiculous thing, because in a year, 2 years, are we going to care which order they came out in? Probably not. But right now, my current feeling is that I kind of wish this had come out before Zuto, because this kind of feels like the unpleasant way of doing it. You know, we had the happy, joyful ending, and now we've kind of got the sad ending afterwards. I would rather have the sad ending, whereas like, okay, we've got to say goodbye, and then, okay, everyone say goodbye? Let's have an encore. Zuto, hey, here's a nice video showing you stuff that you remember from before, and hey, it's happy in the end, really. I feel like this was the wrong way around to do it. I also feel that although Zootol was not their best song ever, it was a good song, which I preferred it as a song. I must admit the Bye Bye Show, it's okay, it's functional, it's catchy enough melody, but it's people are going to hate me for this. It's kind of bland. And I feel similarly to how I feel about the song when they got Tucker from One OK Rock to come in to write it, and that again was a functional song. But both this one and the one that Tucker from One OK Rock, wrote, they are probably the two most bland songs in the last year. In that they're okay, but they're just very much strummy guitar chord melody songs. So yeah, I don't know. I think maybe in a couple of years' time I'll look back at this song very fondly. But now at least I just kind of feel like it was perhaps a bittersweet ending that we didn't need after we already had a sweet ending. I wish they'd done the songs the other way around, because I certainly am not going to turn down having an extra BiSH song. If someone was saying, Howard, do you just want to erase this song from existence? I would say no. Every BiSH song is a song that we can enjoy having. I just wish they'd come out in the other order. I really do. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys think. Obviously, I'm going to be very much hoping to see a lot of extra things between now and when they do finish their final show. I think this is going to be the last time we see a new song and video, but who knows what could come out. I'm very much looking forward to their own individual solo careers moving forwards, their futures and everything like that. But there you go. Those are my thoughts on the rather complicated conclusion to, at least it would appear, the BiSH songwriting story. Get in the comments, tell me what you think. And until hopefully I see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these, even if it's not BiSH, for now, ciao ciao.